পাবি শুটেনকে যেখানে wherever he is পাবি একসাথে অবস্ট্রাকশন হয়
If you find him, shoot and kill him wherever he is, and then plant a weapon beside him. This is often the order, says the high-ranking officer, who reveals how Bangladesh's elite police force selects which people should be killed. He has been involved in dozens of killings. These are people who they suspect of serious crimes, but who they consider too difficult to convict in a trial or impossible to rehabilitate. Rapid Action Battalion RAB is a special unit within the police which is made up of both military and police officers. It was formed in 2004 to fight serious crimes like terrorism and drug trafficking in Bangladesh, one of the world's most densely populated countries. The officer does not know that he is being recorded. The dialogue is in Bengali, and we've translated it using a country with no connection to the people involved. This is to protect our sources. He tells how RAB kills selected targets when they least expect something to happen. People sitting at a tea stall or doing other things in their everyday life. The high-ranking officer is telling straight out how the police take bribes from criminals. They use the money to buy weapons to plant next to the people they kill. Very seldom people had weapons from the beginning. Planting evidence is a way to provide a reason for the killing, that the elite police force acted in self-defense, he explains.
Because without arms,
this very sensitive recording is almost 2 hours long. The high-ranking elite police force officer is clearly repeating over and over again about killings and enforced disappearances conducted by RAB.
It's always a lot of traffic around the main. That's what I'm going up the main road.
In London, I take a taxi to visit Amnesty International's headquarters and the big office at Easton Street. Human rights organizations have repeatedly criticized and documented human rights violations committed by RAB. The organization is monitoring the developments closely in Bangladesh and also has close contacts with the families of those killed, abducted and tortured by the elite police force. We let experts assess the unique recording. The Bangladesh expert Olof Blomqvist at Amnesty International in London says that it's shocking to listen to the recording.
My first reaction is that it's incredibly chilling to hear someone speak so casually and so coldly about carrying out these very, very serious human rights violations. Having said that, we haven't been able to confirm this ourselves, but this is something that definitely needs to be investigated. And what we do here in this recording are statements that match a pattern of similar violations, which we at Amnesty International and many other human rights organizations have documented over several years when it comes to the Rapid Action Battalion in Bangladesh.
Several experts consider the high-ranking officer very credible with a good knowledge of many details. Swedish radio has also used other means to verify that the conversation is authentic.
There are 4 to 5 inquiries.
After each incident where RAB has killed a person, there are several inquiries, according to the officer, such as how the bullets travelled. The man's description provides a unique insight into a combined effort by the authorities into how the events are presented to journalists and the public in Bangladesh. They use words such as crossfire and how RAB had been fired upon and thereby acted in self-defense.
But what Amnesty International and many other human rights organizations have documented is that in fact crossfire killings is very often a euphemism for a murder. Quite often people who have been killed in these so-called shootouts turn up later with bodies that bear clear signs of torture, bodies that have apparently been assassinated execution style. Quite often these people also die in detention, which of course makes it very difficult to believe that they were killed in some kind of shootout or in a crossfire.
RAB is also often criticized over abductions, people that are caught and later found dead or who never return home. The high-ranking officer describes 3 tricky components to enforce disappearances: to capture the target, to kill him, and thirdly, disposal of the body. The conversation, using hard, cold words, is like a scene out of a horror film. He describes how the police lie to their intended victims. They say they will drive them to a friend for safekeeping, but instead the police kill them. Everyone is not an expert on enforced disappearances, he says. We have to make sure no clue is left behind, no ID cards that slip off. We have to wear gloves. We can't leave footprints behind and have to wear covers on our shoes to prevent that. We can't smoke during these operations, he explains. Officers must be perfectionists and control each other. The high-ranking officer says people disappear like this every day. Also innocent people disappear. Anyone can be killed in this way, the RAB officer says. This can be a way of getting rid of political opponents, and there are forces that want to remove a large number of people, according to the RAB officer. He expresses the opinion that this may be a way of controlling population growth. There are so many horrible details in the recording that the translator needs to go out several times for a breath of fresh air. Disappearances have skyrocketed. It's a very widespread problem, says Olof Blomqvist at Amnesty International. Very often, those who are killed or disappear are activists or people belonging to the political opposition. No one is safe in the country, he stresses.
It is something that's absolutely needs to be looked into more, and it's also quite often in other cases in Bangladesh we've seen how authorities are able to take advantage of or use the judiciary to sort of target or level criminal charges against political opponents or other critics. Unfortunately, the judiciary in Bangladesh has in some ways become a tool of repression of the authorities.
Decisions on the fate of those taken by RAB are being taken high up, the officer says. In this unique and sensitive recording, the RAB officer also gives examples of how they've tortured people. He describes a dark room with a lamp in the middle where an arrested man was stripped naked. They hung him in handcuffs and tied his testicles to bricks. His testicles were almost ripped off by the weight, the officer says. The tortured man fell unconscious. I didn't know if he was dead or alive, he says.
Bangladesh on paper actually has a fairly progressive anti-torture law. The problem is that it's very rarely used in practice, which means that torture just continues endemically, and it's very, very rare that those people who are responsible for it are held to account.
There is a great concern in the country about how RAB can continue with its practices, and the situation is getting out of control, he says. Only a few people from RAB have been brought to justice for serious human rights violations. Now Amnesty International is calling for a full investigation and those responsible to be held to account.